Hey, this is Bjorn Rebney, CEO and Chairman of Bellator MMA. You're watching ProMMANow.com.
Hey guys, Dan The Wolfman for ProMMANow.com with the legend, Dan the Dragon Wilson. How's it going, sir?
Very good. I didn't know you were the Wolfman.
I am, absolutely. Ow!
I forgot.
What are you doing here at Bellator Fighting Championship today?
I'm watching some great MMA. That's what I'm doing here. It was a great show, great fight, evenly matched, and very exciting.
Are there any fights or the title fights that stood out to you? Pat Cran's hands, or what did you?
Well, no. I don't want to pick one out, but I just thought that the whole show was professionally run, and it's going to be a great thing for Spike TV. That's for sure.
And you're a kickboxing legend. I mean, really going. When was your first pro fight?
1974 was my first pro fight.
Wow. Yeah. And then you're doing a lot of the above the belt stuff for a while. PK.
That's all they had back then.
Right.
You know, at the very beginning, it wasn't. I was a martial artist. Before I was a professional fighter, I was a bouncer in a nightclub. So I used to fight. There were no rules. My first night, I had a gun pointed at me. My first night.
Wow.
But so for me, full contact was just a way to improve my striking skills. I could punch, I could kick, and not be disqualified for hitting the guy. And then later on, I did the Thai boxing because you use your elbows, your knees. So I adapted to whatever was being offered. Now, if this sport had been there, I would have, of course, from being a wrestler, I would have very, very easily fit in.
Even 10 or 15 years ago, you were actually kind of thinking about it and talking about it, right?
I was talking about it tonight. What are you talking about? I'm talking about getting in the very next fight.
Hey, Dan Severn just announced his retirement. Maybe we can get him out of it. And, we were there's a little weight difference.
We were offered fights to fight each other in Chicago.
Really?
Now, of course, Dan says, easy money, I'm in. But I accepted the money was good for me. The fight never happened, though, because people throw up all kinds of BS. Would you fight this guy? I got a fight offer to fight Van Damme, about a dozen of them.
Really?
You think he's going to get in the ring?
No.
That's like Tyson fighting Stallone.
Well, he's been supposed to fight this Thai champion for the last 2.5 years.
First of all, Van Damme's going to pay the guy to lay down if he does win. That Thai guy, he's probably broke.
Sorry, Jean-Claude.
If Jean-Claude Van Damme wants to fight, I'll fight him anytime he wants. And my money will go to the charity of his choice. Whatever promoter wants to promote it, I'll give every dime to his favorite charity. So if he doesn't do it, he's shortchanging somebody.
And it's too bad you didn't really get in the MMA again other than commentating, but you didn't fight yourself because people don't realize you had a wrestling background, right?
Well, I was a wrestler in college before. Look, of all the sports I did, including kickboxing, the one that I picked up the fastest was wrestling. When I was in high school, I was a MVP of my high school football team, MVP of my high school basketball team. I ran track. I threw the shot put, the discus, ran the 220. But when I walked onto a wrestling mat as a college student, I basically had no experience whatsoever. Never even watched one. I got a scholarship. In my second year, I was fourth in the state of Florida, intercollegiate against everybody. The wrestler that beat me was the guy who went to the Nationals the year before. So in 2 years, I was at the highest collegiate level of wrestling. And for me, this is a better sport than kickboxer boxing mainly because of the brain damage. These guys aren't getting the brain damage that boxers and kickboxers sustain.
At least not yet. Now that everyone's striking better, maybe we got to be careful.
No, it's the repetitive blows. It's not the hard. They take hard shots here for sure. I'm saying the repetitive blows over a period.
Standing
of
8 count and then clear your head and get knocked down again.
You let the guy back up and they're finding out in football, guys get knocked out. 30 seconds later, they're back in the game. Now, if it had been a boxing match, they wouldn't be able to fight or play football for 90 days. So the brain damage of all contact sports is the tragedy. All my other injuries heal. The injuries, you get broken hands, broken jaw, nose, but the brain damage does not.
For sure.
Yeah.
So we got to be careful. Like a guy like Gary Goodridge, he says most of it was from the K1 kickboxing probably, but we do got to be careful and monitor it, I think.
Well, yeah. Well, listen, all the K1 guys. K1, I never did like the idea of the K1 because I believe it's promoter friendly, but it's not to the athletes. Like they got to crunch down the fight time to 3 rounds, and they got to fight 3 fighters. So you're going to take a lot of punishment the first fight. The best guy doesn't always win.
Glory just did 4 fights in one night, a 16-man on New Year's.
Oh, man, I think it's damaging to the athletes. And I was at the K1. I didn't go to the fights, but I was at the press conference. And there were several champions, kickboxing champions, and they walk like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Friends of mine. You know them. I'm not going to say the names. But
so maybe they should get in the movies like you did eventually. I'm curious, which are some of the better grossing? Which one residual checks are still coming in? What's the best one that's still? No, what's the best one?
I starred in 30 movies. All 30 were money makers. I'm 30-0 in the movie business. I'm undefeated. Better than my fight record. But no, Blood Fist. I did 8 of those. Yeah. And when you do 8 sequels, obviously they were making money. I did 3 Ring of Fires, 2 Cyber Trackers. I did a lot of sequels because it's an easier thing for the producer. If they know it's a moneymaker, there's no gamble, they just make the money. So, yeah, I'm working on TV pilots, and I did.
Are you still training? You still teaching?
I will fight in the parking lot if they got cash.
You can give me a stop side kick right there? That's what I wanted to see.
Hold your hand up.
Oh, all right.
No, with the pants are stopping me.
It's hard, it's hard.
No, I'm like an old racehorse that hears the gun and wants to race. I go here and I see the lights and the ring and the screaming, and I feel like fighting again. When I was looking at the fighters, I realized I was doing a sick thing. I'm looking at them thinking about how I can get my sidekick in. I'm saying, I'm not going to kick any of these guys with my sidekick.
So the guys in MMA didn't really know how to use that. They're just starting now. Use the sidekick, use the lead leg instead of just rear power kick.
Evolving. It's all of it. Listen, in the very beginning, they were just martial artists who would grab each other and throw weak. They weren't even in shape. So it's evolved. I mean, these guys are, a high level of athletes. They can take it, they can give it, and it's going to keep rising in popularity.
All right, well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Nice talking to a legend. Go to promamanow.com.